So the questions are these. How can we really activate the best of the private sector to meet the challenges of the real world? Is there a way to accelerate my career that doesn't involve boring online or classroom courses? And can I really impact people in the developing world with the skills that I have? Can I finally feel proud of what I know? Those are the questions, and this podcast will give you the answers. My name is Philippa White, and this is TIE Unearthed. Keep listening, and you can follow us on our journey as we show you how we're connecting the private sector with the social sector to make change. Hello everyone, Philippa White here, and welcome to episode 17 of TIE's podcast. Today I'm chatting with my oldest friend, Liz Wreford. Now we've known each other since we were 2. Liz is super inspiring and she's doing incredible things in Canada. And today we're going to be talking about diversity and inclusion in architecture. Now that's something I actually hadn't stopped to think much about before. And I'm guessing maybe some of our listeners hadn't either. So I'm just super excited to have you here, Liz. So Liz, great to have you.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is really fun and exciting.
Now, before I go any further, let me tell people a little bit more about you.
Okay.
So Liz Wreford is the principal landscape architect of Public City and has professional experience across Canada, the United States, and Australia. Now, Liz has taught design studios in the universities of Toronto and Manitoba. She was recently appointed to the board of directors of the Winnipeg Arts Council. And in 2018, Liz founded Building Equality in Architecture Prairies to advance excellence and diversity across city building professions in central Canada. And obviously we're going to be talking a bit about that today because I find it fascinating. Liz is also the co-executive director of Storefront Manitoba, where she continues her advocacy work in the built environment and the public realm. So Liz, it's an honor.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Now, I thought I'd start this off because there aren't very many people, or really anyone else actually, who will be on this TIE Unearthed podcast who knows me as well as you do. We've known each other for a super long time. And growing up, for those of you who are listening, neither of us had extended family close by. So our families became our extended family. We had Christmas and Thanksgiving together every year. We went to school together. We rowed for the province of Manitoba together in the same boats. So, yeah, I have my memories, but I'd like to put this on you. What's a memory that stands out from us growing up?
Oh, there's so many, and so many of just like being on our street. We lived a few houses away from each other when we were really little. And I think we were so lucky to have that where we could just go back and forth to each other's houses. But this is the first thing that popped into my mind, which might be embarrassing. But remember that time we got married and we had a street wedding?
That's so funny because there was, actually, you know what's so funny? I don't remember that, but I think I saw the pictures recently. I think my sister might have sent them to me. I think I was the man.
Yeah, and I was the woman, and your sister was the priest, and my sister was like the guest or something.
So funny. Now that you've actually said that, I need to dig those pictures out again because we do have.
There's so many. There's
so
many. A treasure trove of through the years. Just I don't know. We've been through a lot together, and
we have. Yeah. I'm just going to say one word, Montreal, and that's it. I'm just going to leave that there.
Yeah, just don't go any further. We'll leave that in Montreal.
Yeah, the good old. We'll leave that in Montreal. Yes, God, rowing.
Yeah, rowing.
Yes, good memories.
Yeah, good parties.
Yeah. So let's get a little bit more serious. So I would love you to just talk to us about Public City and the work you do, because being here in Brazil, obviously I'm super far. I couldn't be further away from the reality of Winnipeg, but I get the the sort of the updates on, social media and the various interviews that you're being, things that you're talking about and winning so many awards and doing so many amazing things. So I just want people to know, what is Public City all about?
Sure. Okay. So Public City is a transdisciplinary design studio, where we are landscape architects and architects. I own it with my partner, Peter Sampson, who's an architect. I'm a landscape architect, and we're based in Winnipeg, but we have work across Canada, in multiple cities. Winnipeg is really a northern city. It's, I think one of the most populous, most northern cities in the world. And so we've lately been doing a lot of sort of winter-focused social infrastructure type projects. One of them, we do a lot of stuff. Like, we have a huge range of projects that we do, but these ones are kind of the ones that I like to talk about the most, maybe, and that feel kind of the closest to me. One of them was recently won a couple of awards. It's called Toboggan. It's the first and only, we think, accessible toboggan slide. And most people listening are going to be like, what is a toboggan slide? Don't you just toboggan down a hill? But actually, in Winnipeg, it's like totally flat. So there aren't any hills to toboggan down. So we actually have to build the hills. So this is like a giant playground slide made out of steel and wood that the tallest one's 16 feet in the air, and you slide down these ice chutes basically on your toboggan. And it sounds kind of crazy, but it's like this one actually has a ramp that leads up to one of the toboggan chutes, so that people with mobility issues, or even just parents pulling their kids on a toboggan, can not have to deal with the stairs, which is a really typical issue with these toboggan slides that are all over the city. So it won a International Olympic Committee Award for design excellence in recreation infrastructure, and it also won a Paralympic Committee Award for excellence in accessible design. And one of the reasons I think it won is because it actually engages people with accessibility issues, not just allowing them to watch sport or recreation, but actually allowing them to engage in it. So that's a really, really cool one. And then maybe the other one is Croca Curl, which is also really weird. I don't know, like, no one's, again, going to know what I'm talking about, but it's a combination of curling and crokinole. Crokinole is a regional game that we play in the prairies and in Ontario, and it's almost unknown everywhere else in the world. But we developed like a kind of hybrid of those two games that's played on an ice surface in the winter. And it's kind of like circular curling, I guess. And the idea is to get curling rocks into the center of this ice rink thing. Lots of documentation online about that if you want to see more.
Yeah. And also, just to be clear, because you invented Croca Curl, right? I mean, obviously you didn't invent curling. Everyone should know about curling and the other game, which I can't say.
Crokinole.
What's it called? Crokinole, which is a game that exists, but Croca Curl has actually become a bit of a phenomenon, if I'm not mistaken.
My office invented it a few years ago, and was built in Winnipeg in 2017, and then it took off around Canada. It was crazy. It's just like, I've lost count where it's been built. I think probably in 30 places across Canada. And then yesterday I just had a long discussion with someone in Wisconsin in the States, and that they are really hoping to be the Croca Curl epicenter of, I don't know, the United States or something. So it's actually traveling out of Canada now, which is really cool. Yeah,
that's so cool. So cool. That's so amazing. I'm so proud of you. And it's just and then there's the other one as well.
Well, Hookah House is sort of where it all started, which is a warming hut that we designed for the Assiniboine River Skating Trail and Red River Skating Trail. This is it's the longest skating trail in the world. It's just on a natural frozen river that goes right through the center of the city. And it's it's been amazing to see how people have really embraced these skating trails, especially this year when we can't do very much. They're so busy. And And I mean, it makes you just really appreciate Winnipeg for what it is. It is really cold, but we say we have committed winters, not like a lot of other cities. So we can actually like commit to winter infrastructure and investing in that in this place and like really enjoying it. And I've seen a huge change in people's attitudes towards winter. People go outside, I think, a lot more and engage in all this like amazing stuff that's happening around the city in the winter. And we're really quite lucky. And it makes you almost see that, you know, our winter could almost be like an exotic kind of experience because not that many other people have the experience that we have here.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I mean, I remember seeing, it was actually, I think it was a festival that went across Canada, but a couple of years ago, I think I remember seeing, there was this beautiful concert that was taking place in Winnipeg, but I think it was in other places, using ice as musical instruments, I think. And yeah, I mean, like you say, turning winter into a proper sort of adventure and, you know, an exciting time to look forward to rather than when I grew up, which was kind of,
another winter.
This again, this is the worst ever, you know. And just for people listening who maybe don't know where Winnipeg is. So Winnipeg is at the center of Canada. Like it's very close to the US border, but it's like smack dab in the middle of Canada. And in the wintertime, the thermometer goes to minus 40. I mean, 35, 40 for sure.
Yeah, Celsius.
Yeah, I mean, oh my God. And so that's minus 35. And then with the wind chill, it's minus 60.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember it being like, I remember walking to school. I mean, for you, this is normal, but obviously it's been a long time since I've experienced this. You know, you walk to school and you have like your toque on, your hat, and your neck warmer, and then to actually have your eyes exposed. I remember having to cup my hands sort of under my chin and like over kind of my eyes. And then you blow this hot air that sort of warms up your eyes. So then you get to school and your eyelashes are all white because they're all like frozen.
Yeah, and you can't go outside with wet hair because it'll like break off.
It freezes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Yeah, but, you know, actually we've had a beautiful winter this year. It's only gotten colder the last few days. It's amazing.
And it's amazing that you've embraced it as well. I just find that incredible because I know that you're not a massive fan of winter, but it's amazing to turn adversity into, okay, let's embrace this. We can't, like, we have winter, we can't sort of not have, so let's actually have fun and do amazing things. And you guys have done that, which I just find so inspirational.
Yeah, we have to invest in the place that we live in, right? And get the most out of it.
Yeah, it's super amazing. So to that point, actually, I'd love to just ask you about BEA Prairies. Now, you, I think I said that right before. Yeah, I did. Okay, so yeah, BEA Prairies. And why you set it up. Because I'd love to know, how does diversity play a part in your work? What are some of the challenges you face in your profession? Like I mentioned when I introduced you, I hadn't stopped to think about the importance of considering diversity and inclusion in architecture. But you know, what you do relates so much to that, and you really do need to think about it. What are some challenges, but also some solutions in your mind?
Sure.
I'd love to just
Okay, so BEA actually started in Toronto. BEA stands for Building Equality in Architecture. It was started in Toronto a few years ago by prominent women leaders of architecture firms, just as a way to sort of lift everyone up, provide mentorship opportunities, and to address like a gender gap that's quite obvious in architecture. When I was teaching in Toronto, I was asked to start BEA in the prairies. And so this is like going from an organization that's operating with basically almost only architects in one city, major city, very big city, and then trying to kind of change it around so that it could actually work in the prairie region, which is 3 provinces with actually less population, or maybe around the same as Toronto, but a huge geographic area. So it was definitely a challenge that was sort of put on me. So make this work, Liz. I know you can do it. So I was like, sure, yeah, no problem. So but anyway, when I brought it back here and started talking to a few people in the professions here, there was huge uptake really quickly. I also was able to start it in Calgary, and we're trying to make connections across other parts of the prairies too. But when we started talking about how it would look for Winnipeg, what BEA should be in Winnipeg, we realized that it needed to be a much more diverse group of people for it to be successful. So it couldn't just be architects, but it had to, we call it the city building professions. So architects, landscape architects, which I'm one of, interior designers, planners, urban planners, and then even expanding into the construction industry and engineers. And that it also had to be more than equality, it had to be about equity. Which we felt pretty strongly. So in a way, for us, the maybe title of BEA Prairies should actually be something like building equity and city building professions in the prairies or something like that. It looks different here than it looks in other places. And that's kind of the point of the BEA organization, is that it can kind of move around and be what it needs to be for people. And I think there's a couple of examples of why it's important. One is a gender gap that is pretty well documented. There's a pretty equal number of women and men that are in school in architecture. And when I say architecture, I actually kind of mean the city building professions. So I'll say architecture and landscape architecture at least. So pretty equal in school, pretty equal as interns. So that's just entering the profession in the first 2 to sort of 4 years of working in the profession. But the number of registered architects or licensed architects really, really drops down, like in terms of the number of licensed female architects. Out of it's about 50-50 for interns, and it goes down to about 20% for registered architects. So there's a real gap there, and that's sort of like the missing link. So what happens in that time where a lot of women are having kids, and that's an issue, but there's a lot of other issues there too. And there was a quick kind of overview done in Saskatchewan, which is the next province over. There's actually only a little over 100 registered architects there. And at the time of this survey that was done, there was only 20 female members. Six firms in Saskatchewan had female leadership, so females in leadership position. But 0 of them had more than 50% of women in leadership roles. So, like with over 50% of a role in the firm, and none of them were owned exclusively by women. So there's like a real lack, not necessarily of women in the profession, although that is an issue, and where that sort of gap happens. Why that happens is something that we talk about a lot, but also the lack of leadership, or women in leadership positions. That's really something that's lacking. And so there's nothing for younger women and interns to sort of model themselves against when they're looking ahead into their profession. They can't see themselves there. So, kind of celebrating the work that women are doing in the profession, finding ways to talk about, lack of flexibility in the profession, things like even subsidized childcare, which we don't really get into, but you can see differences in numbers of women in architecture in provinces that have subsidized childcare, like in Quebec. But there's also still like documented harassment and sexism, and then also just like a general underlying concept that women just aren't as good at as men are in this profession. So all of those things are things that we kind of deal with and try and like I said, celebrate the work of women in architecture, but then also BEA Prairies really tries to look at the other kind of gaps in our profession too. And there's a lot of underrepresented groups in architecture. One of the main ones that we talk about a lot, because it's important to the place we live, is the lack of Indigenous people in the profession. So in Winnipeg's the 7th largest city in Canada, but it has the largest urban Indigenous population. So only 5% of Canada's population is Indigenous, but 12% of Winnipeg's is, and 18% of Manitoba's is, which is the province Winnipeg is in. So it's actually a huge percentage of our population. And we are designing cities for that population, and places and buildings and landscapes and planning for all of those people. Winnipeg is a very diverse city, very, very diverse. There's a lot of new Canadians that live here. And we're designing for them, but we are not them. Architecture is almost completely white. There's only 15 Indigenous architects in Canada. So that is 1/5 of 1% of architects in Canada are Indigenous, and yet we're on their traditional land, and so we do land acknowledgements at the beginning of all of our meetings and all of our public presentations, and all of Canada's land is traditional territories that we're changing in our work, and it's the subject of our work. And how do we really engage with that? How do we contribute to social change in architecture when architecture is actually absent from a lot of the discussions, like in the Truth and Reconciliation Commission call to action? Architecture was actually not really part of that.
So this is obviously
it's a huge topic.
Gosh, it's a very complex topic, and can't necessarily cover it all off in the time that I would like to. But I do have one question just around this, which I'm thinking maybe some people are thinking: how right now are, at least there are women involved in some way and can be part of the conversation to try and find ways to improve things. But for the point of view of the Indigenous population in Canada, specifically Winnipeg, because that's where you're based, are they even part of this discussion? Like, is there a way to do that? Are you guys doing that?
Well, we're trying to, but that's sort of the problem, because there are very few. Because there's few Indigenous architects, there's not very many people to look at and see what they're doing. And then there's not a lot of, there's a definite growing population of Indigenous students in architecture, which is great. But we talk a lot about it's even before university that we need to start sort of advocating for our professions to a more diverse population. So should we actually be going into high schools to talk to grade 11 or grade 12 students about, planning or architecture or landscape architecture is an important part of creating a diverse place for us all to live in, and we need your voice to be part of it. And that's not really happening. So I'm hoping that BEA and or Storefront will be able to start sort of advocating for our professions at an earlier age to start changing the diversity of our professions, because it can't just happen. It can't really happen now. Like, it can't happen once you're past university. You can a little bit, but it's not going to make a significant impact unless we actually change who's going into those professions. It's a predominantly white and male profession, and across the world, and that really needs to change.
Yeah. So this brings me, really fascinating. And I think, this brings me beautifully into something else I wanted to just talk to you about, because obviously I am so excited that BA Prairies is getting involved with TIE Accelerator this year. So really excited to work with Jaya Benj to represent your network. So good. Yay, shout out to Jaya. Yeah, super excited. And just really looking forward to kind of touching on diversity and inclusion and doing it from our point of view through TIE Accelerator and kind of bringing these two movements together. And so for our listeners that don't know, what TIE does, we create change makers by helping people step out of their bubble and see the world through a different lens. And we do this by connecting people from various professions with social initiatives in developing countries. And the idea is to unleash an energy in these people who basically end up returning more aware of their potential and proud of what they know, but also insights to how other people work, other places around the world work, but also a reflection on perhaps what else they need to know. And I think in light of what you've talked about, I find this really, really interesting. What Jay is going to be working on, she's going to be working with a team of 4 others from around the world on a number of from a number of different professions. And it's sort of a 6-week program, 2 hours a day. And they're going to be virtually helping a street children's organization in Zambia and helping them pivot in response to COVID. And I'd just love to understand from your point of view, why do more people in professions like architecture need to have these types of experiences? What do you hope the impact will be on Jaya, but also on the BA Prairies network? Just love to hear your thoughts on that.
I think it's such an exciting opportunity, and we were really so happy to be able to offer it to one of our members. And Jaya is going to be great, and it's just going to come back with so much. I think I'm actually quite jealous. I wish I was doing it too, or that I had time. I just think that there's so many, opportunities, maybe lessons that can be learned in working in this kind of way, with being able to reach outside of this definite bubble that we work within, and learn how important it is to make connections from all different disciplines and to come together and be able to make significant change in a short amount of time. And I think there's so much change that needs to happen in Winnipeg and in Manitoba and Canada. And, there's a lot of advocacy work that can be done here. And there are a lot of people in need here. And being able to bring back some of those skills and experiences and then applying them to the place that we live. I'm just so looking forward to hearing her perspective on that, so that we can start using that as a baseline for initiatives that we have here through BEA and through Storefront, and really starting to understand, because you've done it before, you know how to engage so well. And, if we can bring a little bit of that back and start to do it here and make a difference, that's amazing. I would love to be able to do that. Yeah. And then I also think just being able, architecture is such a bubble. It's such a bubble. We just talk to ourselves all the time, and having more outreach, that's a huge thing. And we just have to do more of it and more of it. And even this opportunity today is so great, because being able to talk about these things with people that I don't usually talk about. And, I don't get that opportunity. Our conferences are all the same people, and our meetings are all the same people, and our even podcasts are all the same people. And, there's just so much more that needs to be done.
Yeah, and it's interesting. When we were talking to Jaya last week, I found it really interesting, her, when I asked her, so what are you excited about? Does this sound like a good fit? And she was really, really up for it. And she said, it's funny because growing up, particularly people in Winnipeg, people in Winnipeg leave, don't they? Yeah. I mean, you lived in Australia for a while, you lived in Seattle, Winnipeg, because you're so isolated, everyone kind of leaves for a bit, but then everyone comes home because your family's there, and you have your roots there. And so most people go home. And she said, so as a younger adolescent or a younger adult, I had these experiences, but now, I've got a family and I've got kids, and I'm kind of stuck, and it's going to be difficult for me to kind of snap out of this bubble. But, I tend to hang out with the same people, and I'm surrounded by the same colleagues, and we're having the same, like you said, having the same conversations. And she said, what is so important in architecture, like you said also, Liz, when you're building buildings or building spaces that include a whole lot of other people that we're not even talking to, how can we empathize with people if we're not even, we need to be able to understand, we need to be able to ask questions, we need to be able to look for those, that feedback. But if people haven't stopped to kind of think, it's important to get that feedback, then it's not going to happen. And so that's obviously what we do. And I was so excited to hear that, because I thought, God, I didn't even think of this being applicable to architecture, and it's applicable to architecture. So
no, I
really
think it'll be really great. I'm really looking forward to hearing all about it.
Yeah. Well, we'll have a follow up podcast afterwards with Jaya and sort of hear sort of the other side, because I'm also fascinated to hear the takeaways.
Yeah, and especially from your hometown. That's cool. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, I know. I'm super excited. Which is Wolseley. Like Wolseley, I can picture Wolseley. Yeah. So Liz, we're coming to the end of the podcast, but I just wanted to know, what are you working on at the moment that you'd like to tell our listeners, or what haven't I asked you about that?
Well, I can keep talking for a long time, but we're working on some cool stuff that's actually in relation to like COVID restrictions that are quite heavily in place here. And, two of these projects are in Calgary, where we're working on finding ways to kind of create unconventional public open spaces where people can go if they're living in condos or something and don't have access to open space, and parks are packed, and people aren't supposed to go to them, and they're not supposed to be close to each other and all that. So the couple of really interesting projects, just like basically redefining what a park could be, and like looking at parking lots and how they can act as park spaces. So two of them we had built last summer in Calgary, and then we're working on phase 2 of the one called High Park that will be, I hope, installed this summer. So it's like it's kind of a new direction for landscape architecture, I think.
Just what's the? I don't even understand it. So
two of them. One of them, they're a little bit different, but one of them is called Park, and it's actually like a layered space, so that it's an active paid parking lot that is also a public open space. So we have these kind of like recreational opportunities, like little insertions throughout the parking lot that allow people to gather and interact and play and stuff like that, while keeping the parking lot, active and making money.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty cool. And then sometimes the parking lot can be closed for like a big event or something. But yeah, for the most part, it's actually like we got a permit to make it a dual use parking lot and public space, which is very cool. And I think that's exciting. And then this other one is like, I think it's 6 acres or something, 2 acres, 6 acres. It's huge. It's the whole top level of this gigantic parking lot in downtown Calgary. It's called High Park. And the Calgary Parking Authority, which we worked with on the other one too, is very progressive and basically just said, well, we're not getting a lot of people parking up here. There's structural issues. We can't remove the snow. So let's just do this as a test and see if people will actually use this space as a park. So we've put a bunch of infrastructure up there for just people to go and sit and like come together at a time where they aren't really, there's no space for them to come together. So this huge space is great because there's a lot of room for everybody. And that one's going into phase 2 this year, where we're going to be developing like a little stage, and there's going to be active play opportunities, seesaws and tetherball, and a bunch of other stuff up there. So looking forward to that one.
Yeah. That's really cool, Liz. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really great. Wow. Well, listen, it has been so... I've absolutely loved having you on the podcast. I never imagined it when I started it, and I'm just thrilled because this is just going to open so many people's minds. And I'm just so proud of you as well, because you're just doing so many amazing things. And every time I see these articles coming out in interviews, and Liz Wreford doing this and Liz Wreford doing that, I'm just
the same goes to you though, Liz, too. Like I'm proud of both of us, actually. We've both done a lot of things. Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to talk about it now.
Yeah.
And we have lots more to do.
It is cool. Elm Street was a good street. Lizard, well, listen, take care, and we will, of course, speak soon. And lots of love.
Bye.
Take care. Hey, everyone. This is Philippa again. So this is your chance to get involved with TIE. We have 3 absolutely amazing virtual opportunities available, all rooted in connecting the private sector with the social sector to make change. TIE has never been more necessary than right now. So if you're looking for life-changing leadership development opportunities for your employees and you want your company to impact the world, we've got you covered. If you're looking to step out of your comfort zone and use your skills to make a difference and keen to meet other like-minded professionals with similar values, then our TIE Accelerator program is for you. There are so many options, so I urge you to get in touch. Go to theinternationalexchange.co.uk for more information or just shoot us an email. Better companies, better leaders, better world.